Hello, you've reached Lisa talking again. I'm kind of back after my horrendous cold. I've been quite ill in the last week, so my scheduling has gone a little bit out. But we finished that series looking at what's keeping the UK stable. And I did a series and I looked at kind of the different institutions that keep us stable, our financial institutions. I looked at the Crown. I looked at the fact that we're a very strong and stable economy. And then I had done that review of the G7 summit, which had kind of looked at the way that our international relations are looking a bit iffy. And I was talking to a friend of mine and she said, look, I know you want to talk about what's keeping the UK stable, but what people actually want to know is how we got to where we're at. And we kind of sit here in 2021. In 2005, like, people were shopping and, everything seemed hunky-dory and we'd never had it so good. And in 2021, we're sat here, we've catapulted ourselves out of the European Union. We've had 10 years of austerity, which has literally generated a death toll of about 100,000 people, a £20 billion welfare system that doesn't work, that's fixing itself through crisis because nobody kind of knows how it works. We found out that our economics institutions don't actually measure anything and don't know how anything works. We have jeopardized the global economy. The Labour Party have committed suicide and turned on Jewish people in the way that's not been seen in the UK since the 1930s and Oswald Mosley. And a Tory government where the least you could say about them was that they didn't care about anything but finance, have led to an evacuation of our finance sector, and the UK literally facing a massively uncertain future while they behave like schoolboys having a food fight in the pages of the press and on Twitter. She said, I know that you want to actually look at what's keeping the UK stable, but what we actually need to discuss is how the UK got here. How did such a pragmatic, stable and strong economy get to this situation? How did this happen? Now, I'll be honest with you, my perspective on this is not shaped. I'm not an economist at all. The reason that I actually kind of know this is because I was a social worker. I was literally employed and trained by the state to be the site of political responsibility for the bottom line for the most vulnerable children in the country. And I was trained by the state to understand how all these systems fit together around children. When Universal Credit was announced, I'd worked as a civil servant. When Universal Credit was announced, I was sat with my friend and we were having a cup of tea and we literally just spat our tea out laughing when we heard what they were going to attend. We were like, well, of course they know that's not possible. It's ridiculous. Of course this isn't possible. And what we didn't realise was that actually the people at the heart of power, the people advising government, they think it is possible as long as you can keep the media kind of on side. But the media no longer have that landscape. And the reason that I really understand kind of what went wrong is because in 2010, I was a single parent. My earnings were impaired. The gender pay gap, we understand that now. Women working and leaving their husbands and being mothers is nothing new. This is this is pretty much the norm in our society. And what I found out in 2010 was that Labour and the Tories were agreed that women like me could just be removed from democracy, and that was the best response to a financial crisis. I attended the London School of Economics, which is our economics institution, because I thought even if they're going mad on Twitter, this is a major economics institution. And what I found out when I got there is what they've actually been teaching our policymakers in lieu of actually understanding how these systems work. And over the course of the last 10 years, I've kind of interacted with think tanks, with universities, with kind of media during a period where they were trying to deliver a policy reflex, which was essentially removing women like me from the rule of law. This involved getting entangled in Labour's fake anti-cuts movement, the youth movement that they generated to subordinate welfare claimants and women. This led to the toxicity of trans rights activism, which has jeopardised the rights that trans people have, as well as jeopardising safeguarding and making it unsafe for women to speak. And my friend, she just said, look, while it's all very kind of well-intentioned, looking at what keeps the UK stable, what actually you might be better doing is a series about how we got here. and how things got so bad and how a stable, pragmatic country ended up in that situation. So that is what I am going to do. So I'm going to look at the following things. I'm going to look at the fake anti-cuts movement that led to the rise of Corbynism, that was used to kind of subordinate welfare claimants, and I'm going to look at how that progressed during a period where austerity was being delivered. I'm going to look at think tanks. I'm going to look at how they came into being, why they came into being, why they were established, and how they have ended up completely unable to kind of see the context having changed around them with no knowledge of the systems that they're shaping. I'm going to look at the LSE. I'm going to look at what I was taught in the period, which was a good solid 5 years after the financial crisis, no, 7 years actually, 7 years after the financial crisis, what they were teaching at the LSE in that period. I'm going to look at the different strands that showed to anybody with half a brain that the economics that we had been using, the context had changed around it, and I'm going to look at duties to look after children, to social care, to our welfare system, and how those systems will consolidate. And over the course of kind of 4 or 5 videos, I'm going to have given you a complete explanation as to how it is that a stable, pragmatic country can, in a democracy, end up doing what Great Britain has just done. And I figure I'll do it even if the only reason for doing it is so that there is a record kind of online to say, actually, this is kind of what we did for other countries to learn from. So I'm going to start that series next Wednesday. I'm not going to do it today. I've been really, really unwell. And I'm currently working on the videos for Sunday, which are about Persia and Greece, which have been really, really fun to work on and really, really interesting. I should be back to full pelt next week. I'm feeling much, much better. I don't have coronavirus. I just had a really stinking cold. I'll be back next week with the beginning of this series, and I'll be back on Sunday with that history video. Thank you very much for watching.